Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast, where we look at marketing principles, strategies, and tactics through the lens of space. Hi, I am your host, Izzy, and this year we are meeting some incredible industry professionals that focus on promoting their company as well as space. Our guest today is from Canada, Shannon Clement, founder of Engagement Marketing. It's not in-house or outsourcing marketing. On this episode, we will journey to a new hybrid marketing staffing solution called Fractional Leadership. And I can't wait. So lift off in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast. Information relating to our discussion today and links to the video version can be found in the episode show notes on spacemarketingpodcast.com. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. It will help more people reach beyond the atmosphere. Information in this episode is for entertainment and information only. Please consult a professional for your specific situation. Many startups struggle when it comes time to hire for marketing initiatives. Should you take the plunge and hire a staff or contract with an agency? Budgets are always tight, and you may not be able to swing the professional staff and all of the costs associated with the staff salary. But on the other hand, an agency is regulated to the scope of the project and may not be able to see other initiatives or opportunities. So what do? There is another option. In today's episode, we will be discussing fractional leadership with Shannon Clement, who is founder of Engagement Marketing, and she is also a fractional CMO for B2B software, space tech, and aerospace startups and scale-ups. She provides marketing and communication leadership to fuel business growth. My deepest apologies for the sound quality of my part of this interview. There was a little glitch in the microphone, so please bear with us. Welcome to the podcast, Shannon. We met a little bit ago. We met on LinkedIn, and you were talking about this fractional leadership, and it was just extremely interesting. And I am sure that a lot of the audience has not heard about this. And it's a great hybrid to be able to combine a lot of different skills in marketing and communication and expand your staff without expanding your staff. So, but before we start that conversation, I like to let the audience get to know you a little bit better. So we always start off with, how did you become interested in space?
I've been interested in space for a long time, just as a hobby, looking through telescopes, and my dad's really into astronomy. So, we have a telescope here, just from a personal standpoint, but from a work standpoint, it started really just less than a year ago, working with a space startup here in Canada's nation's capital, Ottawa. And this company was, they had a payload on the Hakuto R lander that was going up into space, and they needed help to get the word out, get some publicity, have a marketing leader that could push that strategy. And I was very used to working with software companies and tech companies, which I've been doing for the last 10 years through my agency. But then working with these guys and just seeing like the possibilities, the milestones, the firsts, like so many different firsts of getting into orbit, lower Earth orbit, then you're on your way to the moon, you're like, all of that was just, we watched it on TV all together, and it was like heart-wrenching, it was very emotional. So that was my first introduction to the space industry, working as a marketing and communications professional. And the other really cool thing that happened very early on was that I was at an event at the Aerospace Museum here, and I got to meet the 3 Artemis astronauts.
Oh,
And our prime minister was there as well, who I also got to meet. Like all of
wow.
these, yeah, it was sort of like, okay, so now I'm in this industry, and I'm meeting all these people, and it was so great. Like, just, and everyone, there's just this real camaraderie and community and excitement within the industry. Like, it's such a great time to be in the space economy. And you see all these new companies that are popping up all over the place, or companies that are creating new products for space just because it's opened up so much. So, yeah, it's been super exciting.
So basically, you were thrown into the king's court right off the bat,
Yes. Yes.
or queen's court. Queen's court. I'm sure that some of the astronauts were the females as well.
Yes, yes, one of them was. Yeah. I was kind of thrown into it, but at the same time, I'm used to that, working with software companies and marketing software products. But space was different, definitely more government oriented compared to like your typical software technology. A lot of different layers there, like industry partnerships, a lot of academia, and there is some of that in the software world, but not to the extent as the aerospace industry.
So I'm gonna throw another one out here in marketing and that in communications. So what got you interested in that? Because that is, in a way, it's almost like space. It's a little bit more, down to earth, quote unquote. But how did you get interested in marketing? That's not a normal path either.
I've been around a long time, and that was
You don't look at you don't actually look at it at all. I was shocked. I was shocked.
thank you, that's very kind. But it was the early 2000s where I got into the industry. I was actually an editor at the Weather Network, editing all sorts of clips together, and did some different jobs in the media industry. Then started working in web, so project management, some event management, but all with technology. From there, I went into a health communications company. That was back in the days of AOL and Yahoo. And I don't know if you remember those days.
I do. I do.
Yeah. The company that I work for was a health communications company, and they had a portal network where they created health content for all of these different websites. It was kind of like a WebMD of Canada, but we syndicated our content to Yahoo and AOL and a lot of the different papers and things like that. I was in charge of that network and doing the marketing, and that's like early days of SEO, you know, trying to get web traffic, like all of that. So I don't know. I feel like I get into these industries that are sort of up and coming, and then I ride that wave until like maybe something else comes along that is, you know, just as exciting.
Well, that's
That's where I
that's
started.
probably why you love startups. I mean, I started my career with startups too, and everything's just so intense and exciting, and everybody's dreaming and working towards a common goal. So, that, and it's amazing what some of them come up with. It really is.
And I think because I have that entrepreneurial spirit, I really get the founder's entrepreneurial spirit and just that excitement of the company and working together for a goal. And then, scaling and, putting systems in place to get to these different milestones. Like I love that. And that's a pretty big part of my job.
And you have this hybrid that helps a lot of startups called fractional leadership. So that is a very interesting subject. So please tell us about what it is and how it works.
I found out about fractional leadership probably about a year and a half ago. I came across it just doing a search on the internet, looking for working directly with a client, not as a marketing agency, but embedded within the organization as a contractor, but not full time, because I like to work with multiple clients. And I found this fractional CMO leadership, which is a little more popular with software startups. A lot of other small businesses use fractional leadership, like there's fractional CTO, fractional CCO, communications, I think, all the C-level suite positions, but also now manager positions. Like it's becoming this thing where now as a startup you can hire people that maybe have a little bit more experience for less. Now they're working less, they're not there full time, but it really forces you to be efficient. And for me, I love that because I have systems that I've put in place just running my business for over 10 years. And in that ecosystem, it's, you start one way, you're working towards these milestones, you're working with a team, you have check-ins at a certain period, you've got quarterly, yearly, all the all the milestones that you're looking to reach. And I love building teams from scratch. So when I go into a company that needs that, I already kind of have that system in place where I can easily just go in and say, okay, I know these are the positions that we're looking for. Or maybe it's just, hiring an agency or a freelancer to do certain things, but I know the things that we need and I can ramp up quickly.
And you have a more personal relationship too. So it's not like with an agency that you're hired to do a certain thing, but you don't see the day-to-day things that happen. And a lot of beautiful content and opportunities happen in that day-to-day stuff that a lot of people aren't even aware to be something that is educational and inspiring. So as a staff, you're able to see that.
Exactly. And a big difference that I see is like when I've worked as an agency partner, you don't get too into the weeds with the business. Like you don't really know the day to day with the business. You're just executing on something. You're working on, search engine optimization or your Google ads or whatever. But you have that as a project. And then when it's done, you're done. You're not like looking at what else is happening, but working closely with the team as part of the team, working with business development, with government relations, with sales, looking to broker partnerships. Maybe if the company is working on an RFP and I know that, then we can tailor our communication strategy around, maybe like there's an email campaign, maybe there's an op-ed that needs to be done, maybe there's some media or PR. So it all kind of ties together. Like you're not alone in a silo. You are really tightly knit with your team and supporting one another, which I really like.
And as a fractional leader itself, you don't incur the costs that a permanent on staff would cost. When I was, I had a business for 20 some years, and the staff, their salary was really, that was the easy bit. It was all of the workman's comp and all the taxes and all of the costs behind that salary that really just made it a challenge. So with having a fractional leader, you have reduced some of that cost tremendously, I imagine.
Yeah, and then sometimes I'll outsource other people as part of my business. Like we were working on an animation recently, so I outsource that as part of my company and then build it back. So sometimes, like if it's easier to do it that way, then I'll just put it through my company, and I have the contacts, so that's helpful as well. Like, that list of contacts to share with your company and have all of these resources at your fingertips is it just helps companies get things done faster, right?
Yeah, so it seems like the best of both worlds, the best of the agency and the best of contractors, and with agency and contractors putting them in the same world, and then the best of having an on staff person. So, I think it's a fabulous solution.
It's a great solution, but I will say, Izzy, it's not for every company. Like if you're a larger company and you already have, marketing set up and communication set up and you have staff, you're probably going to want to hire someone full time that works for the company. It just depends at what stage your company is in and what your needs are. But for a company that's either a startup or a scale up, or they're like a small to mid-sized company that is creating a space product and they don't have any experience in the space industry, then that's where a fractional leader can come in handy on the sales side, on the marketing side, as a CFO. That's helpful. But yeah, the bigger ones, you probably want to hire someone full time.
Hold on to your boosters. We will be right back with guest Shannon Clement, founder of Engagement Marketing, after a brief message from our sponsor. Please like and subscribe to the Space Marketing Podcast so you don't miss a thing. Let's go into the startups. You worked with a lot of startups. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges and successes that working with startups may entail?
I've worked with startups in the SaaS world, in education, in retail, in health. Like the list kind of goes on. Climate tech. I'm working right now with a satellite cybersecurity company, and they have a new product that is in the testing phase of going to space. So they're looking for a partner to test the product in space. Yeah, like so many different kinds of companies, and I've worked with them in different ways. So some of them I would be leading their marketing team. Others I'm like a one woman show, and I've got a bunch of freelancers that I'm bringing in to execute campaigns and grow the business. So sometimes working as a consultant, and then other times working as a fractional leader. And then I have other positions where, like, I'm on an advisory board and I'm giving, I'm helping out the company with, like, I think I was talking to you about the Women's Aerospace Network.
Yes.
I'm on their advisory board and helping them with the strategy side of the business. I just love working with companies or associations like that are in the stage of growth. We're seeing, incredible results and milestones. And you even said that you signed up, which makes me think that it's working.
It is. It is. I'm like, oh, what's this? I saw it on LinkedIn, and I guess it was about a month and a half ago, roughly. And I'm like, oh, gotta sign up for this. So tell us a little bit about the Women's Aerospace Network and what they do and what they're aiming to do.
They're so inspiring. Honestly, I after talking to the founder and hearing what her vision was to empower and inspire women to get into the industry and to reach for those leadership positions, I thought this is incredible. I know that there's other associations out there that are sort of like this, but the way that Holly is the founder, the way that Holly just has so much passion and so much drive for expanding the network and now creating a magazine, which is going to be coming out this summer. You know, she has Beth Munn doing her podcast coming up. She
Which
is
is one of my favorites. She was a guest on mine as well.
Yeah. She was on T minus space, so I was helping her prep for that. There's just so much excitement behind the launch of this magazine and then also the online portion. Okay, so the Women in Space Awards is coming up, and the deadline to nominate someone is May the 1st. So you have to get your nominations in by May the 1st. And we've seen so many people nominating like world class astronauts and, you know, people in tech, like just all sorts of women that have these various experiences that are incredible. And some of them I'd never heard of before. And now I'm finding out about all of them.
There's women in leadership positions in aerospace is definitely starting to really gain momentum. So I'm very glad to see that.
Yeah, and I know we had a little chat about it and just how back in the day, and I mean, even recently, if
Not
you're a
that long ago,
woman,
yeah.
yeah, if you're a woman in a leadership position in the STEM fields, like you're in tech, you're in space industry, you're sort of holding on to that position, thinking like you don't want some other woman to take your woman only spot, right? Like,
Yeah, because they were regulated to just like, you know, a lot of the boards not that long ago. We're only talking like 10 to 15 years ago. You know, they had two spots. And so if you were a woman that was in leadership and you had that coveted spot, we're not going to give that up so easily.
and what I'm seeing with a new generation of women is that they're competitive, but they're not thinking as much about those coveted spots. They're like, well, why wouldn't there be a spot? You know, there's
Right.
diversity, equity, inclusion. You know, companies are going in that direction. They're thinking a lot more about that. And as a woman, like, you know, if I'm qualified and, you know, I can do the job, then of course, why wouldn't I be up for the position? Which is really refreshing. It's nice to see that attitude.
Now, women empowering other women, which is
Exactly.
wonderful to see as well.
Yeah.
So in the Women's Aerospace Network is full of those type of women that are helping each other that it grow and be the best that we can be.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I love being a part of that network, even if it's just as an advisor.
So this a startup, when we first started our conversation, it was due to this, you know, promoting the startup. And so let's talk a little bit about them. They're going to be speaking at the founder is going to be speaking at a conference in Paris coming up.
Yeah, it's called SciSat 2024. And SciSat is for satellite cybersecurity professionals. And there's everyone from C-suite folks to engineers, different space agencies. It's gotten quite a bit bigger in the last couple of years as satellite cybersecurity is becoming a hot topic.
Absolutely, yes. It's exciting to go to Paris, number one. But where's the topic that you're company is? And do you want to tell us who the company is and
Sure.
what they're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so I'm working with a company called Dominant Information Solutions Canada, which short form is DISC. And DISC has a new product coming out called Eclipse. And Eclipse is a satellite cybersecurity intrusion detection system that
Oh,
is a hardware that goes on board the satellite, integrated within the satellite to protect it and also monitor for any cybersecurity risks. That works with the ground station and then also in space.
wonderful.
Yeah, it is very exciting, and there's a lot of interest globally. We have a lot of people in Europe that we're speaking to, and from a marketing perspective, we've got T Minus Space and some other podcasts
Which I
talking to.
absolutely adore.
Yeah, yeah. We have two very smart experts that will be speaking on stage at SciSat, one of them on the standard side, and then the other who is the CEO of DISC. They have so much experience in the industry. One of them dealing like with the whole Huawei stuff going on. The founder, Nick, he knows everything there is to know about intrusion detection, which I can't say that I am a subject matter expert on, but that's why I'm the marketing communications person that gives them the spotlight.
And that's one of the things I love about marketing and working with businesses that is that you get to get the cream of the information. You don't have to be the subject matter expert, but I call myself a knowledgeaholic. I love to learn things. And when you're working with a business, you don't have to worry about all the dull and boring bits. You get to get the cream of what makes them special, what makes them great. And it's just, that's the fun part for being in marketing.
Yeah, and then fine tune it into something that is succinct, and you're using words that are going to resonate with people, that your buyer or your target market is going to understand the value of your product and why they should be talking to you. Like what's the benefit? How do you all work together? And it's so interesting because I find, especially in technology, and I don't know about you because I know you've been in the industry for a long time, you get to hear these words, like the buzzwords kind of the business, and then you hear them in different ways, and then you hear customers talk about things, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we can't say it that way because the customer doesn't speak like that. Like, we have to use the
Right.
language of the customer and the way that we're describing our product or showing what the value is, because otherwise, you know if you're not using their language, they may not like that word that kind of gets their attention. it they're going to be lost.
It means
So
something different.
it's got to
Yeah.
mean
It's
something
like,
to them.
yeah, it's like if I use the word, I lived in England for a while. So, you know, there were a lot of words like lift or torch that mean something completely different in the United States than it does in the UK. So if I was to say, I'm going to go look for a lift in the United States, people would say, well, she's looking for a ride on a car, where in the UK it would be, I'm looking for the elevator. So
Yeah.
you just have to know the language that the receivers are speaking, and be able to translate. I call it visual translator as well as an audible message translator is what our job is. So we take all the bits that the engineers or whatever do, and we translate them for the audience. So
Yeah, I like
we
to call it,
translate the excitement.
I like to say tech translator, because that's
Yes,
what I
there
feel
you go.
a lot of the time. I'm the tech translator. So if you're not a subject matter expert, but you're in the industry and you want to know why this product should be used, like, I'm going to translate that in common people speak so that you understand.
And with the space, there's a lot of companies that have been traditionally in one industry and are looking at the space industry for maybe one of their products or maybe an initiative that they're working on. And they may not know the lingo that goes on as commonplace in the space industry. So that's where having somebody that does know that stuff has and working with them, even if it's for a short time, that's where that becomes very valuable.
It's the angle too, there's different ways of looking at the benefit of a product and how it's going to mean something to your buyer. If you understand what all of those angles are and you've done your market research, you've actually spoken to maybe some of those buyers, you understand from a government standpoint, like what RFPs are going out, who's partnering with who, who are the influencers in the industry, how are they talking about the subject. Putting all of that together can really help to craft that narrative, because it's important, like this is how people are seeing your product. And if you don't communicate it properly,
It won't matter. You could either not exist or not matter, but on the really bad side, you could really offend somebody and create a PR nightmare that you didn't expect. So that does
yeah.
happen occasionally as well.
Yeah, and you're right, because from country to country, it also changes. So knowing,
Yes.
what the climate is in that country, in terms of what's going on in the space industry, what's going on politically, what's going on with their space agency. Like, it's not just, okay, how do we describe this thing? It is, knowing all the background information and being curious enough to put all the pieces together.
Then how do we describe it? Yeah, only after we understand it, then we can describe it. And so, yes, absolutely. So, the next question is where do you see the space industry going in the next 10 to 20 years? What's got you excited about it and where do you think it's going?
Well, it's definitely becoming more open to companies who typically weren't in the space industry. So I see that definitely continuing as it is more commercialized. I know that, there's a lot of different numbers that are being thrown out there, like, it's going to be billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. Like, I don't know the numbers anymore because they seem to keep changing. VCs are getting more active in the industry, and a lot more investors. So I see more investors at the seed stage that will be supporting smaller companies to get into the industry. And then also, for Series A and Series B as well. We're at this trajectory where we're, if it's like a hockey stick, we're sort of like here, but then it's just going to like go like this, once the momentum starts. And I think we're at that crux where like, with Artemis going up and all of the stuff happening on the moon, like with MDA's new LTV, I guess, lunar terrain vehicle going up on the moon. Like, it's stuff that you wouldn't have even expected 5-10 years ago. Like, all the things
Yeah,
that are being,
just that short time.
yeah. So it's super exciting.
And you look at things like the smartphone when it came out in 2008, 2007 timeframe. And there's a lot of it, when they sit there and they do their forecasting, how can you have forecasted what the smartphone would have done if you didn't even know it existed? So we're going to see some things that happen that are going to impact everything that we just don't see coming yet. So
Well, and from a telecommunications perspective, like with Starlink and, having more companies that are following that model, that is opening everything up. Like you're seeing areas that had very sparse internet capabilities, like, way up north, or, in places that typically didn't have good signals, and now you can get high speed internet. Like, doesn't matter where you live, you have that access, which is very cool. It's going to be interesting from a defense perspective and from a cyber threat perspective, how we deal with that, because I know there's a lot of technology being developed, and there's a lot of talk in from a standards perspective on how we're going to protect our satellites and our assets in space. The more software we have, the more vulnerabilities we have, right?
There's always bad actors that wreck everything.
Yeah, I
There's
know.
always, yeah. They rain on everybody's parade.
So I think that industry is just playing catch up right now. And
Well, and you mentioned the VCs, and for the listeners, next episode is actually a venture capitalist that is talking to us. We had a listener that asked a question about how do you promote to venture capitalists. So you talk about VCs, and we talk about that very subject next on the next episode. So stay tuned on that. Now, the last question I always ask is, what thoughts do you want to leave our audience with today? What do you want them to mull around and take with them as they go throughout their day?
well, I think considering fractional leadership is something that companies should look into for any kind of position, whether it's marketing or finance or sales or HR. There's a lot of fractional leaders out there. My background's in tech, but I'm doing a lot more in space. And I have a website called space.engagementmarketing.ca. That's where I get into what space marketing fractional leadership can look like and how you can use it. So if you're looking for more information, you can check that out. But you can also, just look it up online and see what you find, because there's a lot of fractional leaders out there.
Yeah, that is a very interesting solution, and I was excited to learn more about that.
A special thanks to Shannon Clement from Engagement Marketing for sharing her journey to space. Be sure to check out her links listed in today's show notes. Please like and subscribe to the Space Marketing Podcast to help get the word out about this incredible industry of space. I hope that you have found this podcast useful for your journey as you reach for the stars.